Rome's liquid gold. The year is 70 AD. Emperor Vespasian is having breakfast. His son Titus walks in, furious. "Father," Titus says, "people are laughing at us. You put a tax on urine." Vespasian picks up a gold coin, holds it right under his son's nose. "Does it smell?" he asks. Titus says no. "Funny," says Vespasian. "It came from urine." That phrase, pecunia non olet, money doesn't smell, became one of the most famous sayings in Roman history. And Vespasian wasn't embarrassed. He was proud, because in Rome, urine wasn't waste. It was a resource, a commodity, something people fought over, collected, taxed, and built entire industries around. The question is, why? And the answer is going to make you look at your bathroom cleaner very differently. Let's start with the basics. Every major Roman city had public toilets. Not the nice kind, the kind where you sit in a long stone row with 20 strangers and make conversation. No stalls, no privacy, just a deeply communal experience that would end most modern friendships before they started. But outside the Phalaniki, Roman laundry shops, there were large clay jars sitting on the street. Not for decoration, passers-by were actively encouraged to stop and relieve themselves into them. When the jars were full, workers collected them and carried them inside. Then the fun part started. The workers, called foulones, dumped the collected urine into large stone vats. Then they stepped in, with their feet, and walked around for hours, treading clothes clean in what was essentially a very large, very warm tub of aged strangers' waste. This wasn't a back alley operation. Phalaniki were legitimate, well-paying businesses. No, we know this because archaeologists found one in Pompeii, perfectly preserved, the urine vats still intact, the business name carved above the door. Pompeii got buried under volcanic ash in 79 AD, and somehow the thing historians decided was worth preserving was the urine laundry. Make of that what you will. And here's the thing, it worked. Aged urine breaks down into ammonia, the same compound in your bathroom cleaner today. It cuts through grease, lifts stains, whitens fabric. The Romans had stumbled onto industrial chemistry without knowing what chemistry was. The operation was so profitable that Emperor Vespasian decided the government deserved a cut. He introduced the vectigal urinae, the urine tax. Collectors paid a fee for the right to harvest urine from public urinals. Rome had a urine collection industry large enough to require government regulation. At the same time, it was building the Colosseum, the Pantheon, aqueducts that carried water across hundreds of miles. The empire that gave us concrete and underfloor heating also employed men whose entire job was walking around collecting strangers' urine in jars. Civilization is complicated. The foulones, for what it's worth, were not ashamed of any of this. Archaeologists found campaign endorsements painted on walls in Pompeii, Phalaniki backing local politicians, names in red letters on public streets. The men who spent their days walking in vats of collected urine also had strong opinions about local governance. Democracy has always smelled. Now, you've been patient. You came here for the mouthwash story. Here it is, and I promise, it's weirder than you think. Around 60 BC, a Roman poet named Catullus wrote a poem about a man named Ignatius. Ignatius, Catullus tells us, was always smiling, irritatingly, constantly, aggressively smiling. At funerals, at trials, at moments when smiling is deeply inappropriate, and his teeth were very, very white. Catullus was not impressed. In Carmen 39, he explains why. Ignatius is from Celtiberia, what is now central Spain. And in Celtiberia, men have a particular morning routine. They collect their urine overnight. In the morning, they use it to scrub their teeth and gums. Catullus's conclusion, the whiter your teeth, the more urine you've consumed. Now, every article you've ever read about this says Romans used urine as mouthwash. But here's what those articles leave out. Catullus wrote this poem as an insult. He wasn't documenting a Roman practice. He was mocking a foreigner for following what Romans considered a disgusting, barbaric custom. This is ancient Rome's version of making fun of someone's hometown. Oh, you're from there? That explains the teeth. There is no evidence that Romans in Rome regularly gargled urine. Every ancient source that mentions it, Catullus, the Greek historian Diodoros, attributes it to the Celtiberians, not to Romans. The Romans found it ridiculous, which creates a beautiful irony. Romans looked at urine-based dental care and said, barbaric, disgusting, only a savage would put that in their mouth. These same Romans went home, dropped their togas at the Falonica, and let a man spend 3 hours walking around in a vat of collected public urine to get the stains out. The line between civilization and barbarity, it turns out, is mostly about which body part you're applying the urine to. Here's the part that should bother you more than anything else. Rome fell in 476 AD. The legions disbanded, the aqueducts crumbled, the Colosseum became a quarry. But the urine? The urine kept working. Medieval Europe didn't have Vespasian's tax collectors, but they had chamber pots. And they had a polite name for what you did with the contents. Chamber lye. Housewives collected it. Professional laundresses relied on it. It was normal enough that people gave it a respectable name, as if calling it something else made the smell go away. By the 18th century, the same century as Mozart, the American Revolution, the first modern novel, English wool manufacturers were still soaking fabric in urine as part of the dyeing process. The ammonia fixed the color into the cloth. 1700 years after Rome, the empire was gone. The chemistry remained. In Japan, the practice lasted even longer. Into the early 20th century, households filled barrels with fermented urine. Collectors had regular routes. Laundry shops bought it, pounded it into cloth, used it as a bleaching agent. It was a profession with a schedule, a supply chain, and apparently a customer base with no sense of smell. What finally ended it was synthetic ammonia, produced in a lab, with none of the logistical complications of collecting it from strangers. Same molecule, no jars required. And here's what Vespasian would have appreciated. The ammonia in your bathroom cleaner today, the one cutting through soap scum right now under your sink, works on exactly the same chemical principle as the Roman Falonica. Same reaction, different source. The Romans built a civilization on it. We just figured out how to make it without asking strangers for help. Pecunia non olet. Neither does progress.